Nicole Scott here for Mobile Geeks, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Microsoft Surface Book. If there was a rip in the space-time continuum, three things would come out. The Enterprise, followed by a Borg cube, and then the Surface Book would kind of tumble out. This thing feels like it's from the future. The magnesium chassis, the way that when you hit detach, it makes a satisfying sound and you can take the tablet off. And then in the bottom here, we have a discrete graphics card, an NVIDIA GPU. So I picked this up because, well, I like to edit videos, clearly, and it's 13.5 inches. So it has like a taller display, but this means that it's better for content production in terms of the layout. And personally, not so keen on the tablet part, don't really need it. And there's also a pen that everyone's freaking out about. Also not totally my jam, but I'm gonna also include it in the review. So why don't we dig right in to this 13.5 inch Core i7 beast that I'm really excited to become my main working horse. This Mobile Geeks video is powered by ASUS. So this is it. This is the Surface Book. It does look like it is from the future. The hinge is a big part of that, just considering it's kind of almost spine-like. One of the things that I should point out is that I thought there would be a ton of crap, kind of like building up or like dust, but nothing so far. Even when I have it, going around my bag, without a case, there's still not anything that's getting caught inside. If we just take a quick walk around the system, the first thing that you'll notice is that when you close it, there's actually a gap, right? And I'm a big fan of this gap because the keyboard, if we take a look at it, it's absolutely flush. This is one solid piece of magnesium, and sometimes when you bake the keyboard, it goes down lower, but in this case, it's all flush. So when you close it, the keys aren't going to be touching the display. So you know how sometimes you get those kind of, key marks on the display or from your oily fingers and it looks quite gross? That's not going to happen here. So taking a walk around the system, we have the tablet part up here, and this here is all heat venting, right, along the side right there. We have two USB 3.0 ports. We have a full-size SD card reader here. Very disappointed that it doesn't go in all the way. I've actually broken SD card readers by having the card jam in or hit against stuff, or I've just dropped it, it's fallen off of things, and then the SD card reader stops working. If we look around the back, it's got just that great kind of curved hinge all the way there. Around the other side, this is the PSU, this is a mini display port, and then up here on the end you can see that we have the headphone jack. Oh, and then around the top, that's the power button as well as the volume rocker. And then as far as all tablets go, they all come with a camera that I don't necessarily find useful, but in some situations where you may want to do some conference streaming or stuff like that, this could be handy. Now, one of the things that I noticed when you're using it is that when you go to open it, right, it tends to kind of lift up off the ground there, right? So it ends up falling back. But after a week of use, the hinge has gotten significantly easier to open. So I've noticed if I grab it, it works most of the time. So I feel like over the course of using this over a few years or even a few months, that this is going to be, you're going to be glad that it has quite a strong connection here. So now let's talk about the tablet portion of the device. If you want to undock it, you have to press this button right here. You hit that. And then there's a really satisfying middle thunk, and then you can just detach it. So can you detach it while it's off? So you saw that I detached it from sleep. You should be able to detach, or you can detach it while it's off, because there will always be some residual power left inside either the tablet or the dock. So you should be able to undock it. Now, if the battery is too low, it won't let you undock it at all while it's on. So around the bottom here, you can see that we have the connectors. So this actually also works as a PSU. So you can charge up the tablet independently of the base. Now these connectors here, this is really solid. When I dock this in, like it's not going anywhere. Like once I have that in there, there's really no chance that this is going to come apart. And if you watched our unboxing video, you will have noticed that the power was too low and I couldn't undock it. And I wasn't aware that you wouldn't be able to undock it. And I was really trying, and it's really quite secure. So now let's talk about the specifications of the unit that we are specifically reviewing. So I got the Core i7 version, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gig SSD, and I did get the 2 years of accidental falling and spilling, but I did not get Microsoft Office because we already have a key for that. So there's a few things that you should note performance-wise with the discrete graphics card. So the discrete graphics card is here in the base, and when you kind of undock it and dock it, it activates or deactivates the GPU. So really excited that we don't have to restart the entire system in order to get that to take effect. Some other systems, that's definitely the case. So when you're attaching and detaching it, you can just see how long it takes. So I'd say it's about 2 to 3 seconds in order to deactivate it. Now, it's pretty impressive considering all of the things that are going on with that, especially reconnecting the GPU to the main computer. So now let's talk keyboard and trackpad. This is one solid piece of magnesium. One great thing is that when you close it and then it has this space along the side here, the keyboard doesn't need to be recessed because there is this space. So on a lot of keyboards, you kind of get a dent or kind of lowering down, or it's two different pieces of metal. In this case, that doesn't happen. What we have here is a single piece, and the keys have a significant amount of travel, 1.6 millimeters. There's a very satisfying kind of thwack when the keys bottom out. I'm a big fan of this. Now let's talk about the trackpad. This is a glass trackpad. Feels very nice. I've been using this 3-finger scroll quite a bit. Sometimes I find like it's too slow to activate, because what you have to do is you have to make sure that you're putting all fingers down at the same time in like a very firm way. So sometimes when I put it on, I just kind of rest it and then drag it, and I feel like it takes a little too long to activate. But if you like almost like tap and then do it, it's really, really great. You can also do 4 fingers. No, there we go. 4 fingers to activate there. So that's the thing, is when you're using it, you actually kind of need to do it with a little bit of purpose. You can't just go, oh, it's resting. Oh, maybe it's not there. Okay, right. So you actually need to kind of act with a little bit of purpose. 2-finger scroll works fantastic. And let's not forget that 3 fingers brings up Cortana. Big fan of this precision trackpad. It's one of the things that I didn't realize because I've been using Windows 10 on a desktop, just how much it adds to it if you're able to actually have gestures on board here.
So let's talk about Windows 10. To be honest with you, there's a lot that I'm starting to dig. I mean, the precision keyboard, the tabs to scroll through things, Windows key D just to go to desktop. I like when I have something open and I can go Windows comma just to take a peek, right? And then there's things like virtual desktop that I had no idea about. So Windows key control D will set it up, and then if you go right through, you can actually set up multiple areas. So the reason why I really like this is that I can choose to have different projects open. So if I say had all of my Internet Explorer stuff, let's see, on this one, and I had like a certain project that I was on, and it was like focused on Star Wars, and then I could have this virtual desktop be focused on a different school project, and so I could have different programs open with different tabs. So I just like the concept of having that, the virtualized desktop. If that was in Windows 8, it wasn't a thing that I was really using, but I've started to adopt that a little bit more here, and it hasn't been a problem at all. Occasionally, if you saw that when I'm here, and I'm in this desktop and I hit Internet Explorer, it pulls up this, right? So like there are some issues, but at the same time there are some glitches within. Let's see. Let's go back here. Windows key. There we go. I do have some issues with Windows 10. I didn't think that I was going to have any, but I clearly do, and some of them are Google related, which is really funny. So let me just pull up the Mail app. I can't get Gmail to sync, and it's not Google's fault, right? Google keeps on saying that it doesn't trust this app, right? And even when I go into Google's backend and I say, no, let's just trust all the apps in the world, I still can't get it to log in, right? So this is an issue. And then the other one is with the Windows Store. where Microsoft is having a 10-cent sale right now, and I wanted to show you the Back to the Drawing Board application, but I just keep on getting an error, right? And it's saying that my license is not correct, and that's just really annoying, right? I shouldn't have to go to the Windows help page and try to figure out what's wrong with it. It should just work. So there are some glitches. I was actually assuming that I was going to be not have any, because reading the initial reviews, everybody kind of complained about a bunch of different stuff, and I never experienced the problems that they did, the display driver issues or anything like that, or even the battery life consumption problems. That hasn't been an issue for me at all, but there's just these tiny things. There are a few tiny things that have gone wrong. So the mail and the Windows Store are the two that are the clearly most irritating for me. But if you don't use Windows 10 apps, well, you won't be able to on mine anyways in the beginning. So that's a little bit of a downer.
So now let's talk about performance. This is a dual core processor. It's not a quad core processor. So a lot of these claims that Microsoft made about the Surface Book being twice as fast as a 13-inch MacBook Pro with Retina display, just actually they can't be true because, well, let's take a look at it. Apple has a 28-watt CPU with integrated Intel Iris graphics, and Microsoft has a 15-watt CPU with HD 5200 integrated graphics. So basically our good friend science says computationally it actually can't be 2 times faster. But where this gets interesting is that when you look at the benchmark averages, we're actually seeing the two are neck and neck. The MacBook is running on last generation's Broadwell 5th generation CPU, so you're getting similar performance at nearly half the power consumption, which is actually something to write home about. It's just a shame that Microsoft didn't take it from that perspective rather than just saying it's twice as fast, which is kind of inaccurate. So if we keep comparing the Surface Book to last generation's processors with, say, the Dell XPS 13, just in terms of processing power alone, its 301 point Cinebench score is a significant jump compared to what the Dell XPS 13 had on last year's processor. But on the unit that we have the discrete graphics card, which gives it a very significant jump, doubling the performance when it comes to gaming. So if you didn't get the GPU and you're a gamer, well, that would just be dumb. So on Firestrike, we got just over 1,800, and if you look at something like the Dell, it's only about 730, 740. So it's over double the performance if you are into gaming. So if you want to put this up against a MacBook that has a discrete graphics card, you're looking at the 15-inch MacBook Pro, which on brute processor performance, it just absolutely slays it. So it's over 1,400 on Geekbench, while the Surface Book only gets about 7,500, right? But this is unsurprising considering that the MacBook Pro is quad-core and the Surface Book is dual-core. So let's spend a little bit more time talking about the GPU. NVIDIA didn't actually name it. It doesn't have a model number, but if we look at the clock speeds and the 384 CUDA cores and the benchmarks, it's comparable to what NVIDIA has with the 940. So if you're unfamiliar with this is on the lower end of NVIDIA's graphics card portfolio for laptop. It's got 1 gigabyte of DDR5 VRAM versus the 2 gigabytes of DDR3 VRAM on the 940M. So we have faster memory, but we have less of it. I'm pretty surprised that Microsoft didn't go with more, considering that this laptop can power a 4K monitor. So you'd actually think that you would want to have the extra graphics performance. So what about gaming? Well, the Surface Book carries a very high price tag, very similar to what you have with a high-end gaming notebook. So if that's what you're really after, you're probably better off getting a gaming notebook. What makes the Surface Book special is that you're getting a GPU in a 13.5-inch device. And this GPU is powerful enough to play some serious 3D games like, say, Battlefield 4, Fallout 4, Tomb Raider, GTA 5. This would be at, like, say, a 720p resolution and low settings. You're actually getting a pretty reasonable frame rate with this kind of stuff. If you ever tried playing these games on Intel's integrated graphics with the HD 520, you know that you'd be struggling, and it's basically barely playable. You'd be able to do older games like League of Legends. You'd be able to do older games like League of Legends running at 1080p medium, no problem. But if you want to compare this to the gaming prowess of the 940M, you're looking at about 3 to 5 frames faster in most cases, and this is because of the faster VRAM. All right, so let's talk video editing. Here I have Adobe Premiere CC 2015 installed. So let's talk about the graphics card. The graphics card doesn't have a name. It is just an NVIDIA discrete graphics card. It's here in the base. So if I want to do video editing in tablet mode, I'm going to have to flip it around, right? Because you can't use the graphics card if it's not attached to the tablet. So now if I try to detach it, right, it says, well, you know, you're going to need to close this program, which is using the discrete graphics card, before you can actually detach it. So let's just escape that. Okay, we're going to edit. So here I've got fast color corrector on here on this tab. I guess fast color corrector on both of these. This one I have some contrast and brightening, and then I have warp stabilizer on this one. So this is a 4-minute clip, MOV, shot on DSLR, and I'm going to export it to let you know how long this takes. So I'm going to export to YouTube, H.264. So the 4-minute clip is coming to an end, and I just wanted you to hear the fan. It's really not that bad. So it kicked in probably 30 seconds after the whole project started exporting, and so far it's not really heating up. The interesting thing that I found about this, so I tried exporting plugged in, not plugged in. What I didn't expect is there's no power settings here. So if you're a video editor and you're not plugged in, you often know that it will take longer to export a video because the system's being more conservative with what it's letting you access. But what's interesting here is that there's no other options that I can find, right? So if I say change the power setting, right? Well, let's change advanced settings, then it goes into here, right? There's no other like power settings for me to go into, right? So sometimes on other laptops, I can on battery, I can say go to high instead of balanced, but there doesn't seem to be that option here. And the times for export between this clip plugged in and not plugged in are exactly the same. So it's quite interesting. So it's about just over 5 minutes for this 4-minute clip, but Warp Stabilizer does generally add quite a lot of time. But I think this is an accurate representation of what someone's editing track might look like. It's actually pretty basic, but at least it's a clip with some effects placed on it. So if you have any additional questions about video editing, please feel free to ask. I'm actually going to be editing this entire video on the Surface Book Pro, so I'll have a lot more information about how this has worked out. So far I've only done some basic things and have been really happy with it. The thing that I'm actually most pleased with about editing on the Surface Book is this 3000 by 2000 ratio. This kind of tallness, you know, gives me a lot more room up here with the video editor. So I personally, as a workhorse, will take this taller production, or this taller display versus having, you know, like letter bars when I'm watching a movie. Just for productivity, I think that this display ratio is actually perfect for video editing and the way that Adobe is set up here. So let's talk about the pen. Personally, I'm not a big pen user, but people who are into it are really into it. The pen feels good in the hand. It has like this accent here, and it's quite bouncy. And if you look up here on the end, it even has an eraser. So I've got paint loaded here where I'm going to try this out. So there's 1024 pressure points. So you can kind of see it start to go into play. Now to actually activate the brush, it needs to be right on the end, and you can't kind of do it at an angle like the side of the nib. You actually need to put the plastic part on, and you can kind of see there that I'm getting different levels of pressure. Now, what can't I live with? The battery life claims are nowhere near what Microsoft has been saying. So I've noticed online that some people are getting 12 hours, some people are getting significantly less. I got about 3 hours with just the tablet, and then the tablet and dock combination, I got over 8, right? That's nowhere near 12 hours. I had the brightness at 75%, and I did have battery saver on. I edited one 4-minute video, and 8 hours is an acceptable amount of time for me. It's the majority of a plane ride. If I turn the Wi-Fi off, I can bounce into 10 and turn the brightness down. But I like 75% brightness because I feel like I shouldn't have to sacrifice brightness for battery life. It's just a usability thing. I want to be able to use my device and not, try to look at the display. I really want to see the display. Talking about the display, I have gotten a lot of questions since the unboxing about this being an awkward form factor, like an odd size to carry around. So because I didn't buy a case at the Microsoft store in New York when I picked this up, I've been using the Asus UX301 case that I've had for my 13.3-inch laptop. If it's totally fine. The dynamics of carrying it are exactly the same. I mean, it might seem in hand to be a little taller. This is clearly heavier. So Windows 10, now in that section I did talk about a couple of things that did go wrong for me, but I really want to stress that I don't think that Windows 10 is going to be a buggy, glitchy nightmare. I think that there are some issues in the beginning, but since the reviews came out 1 month ago and 1 month later, I haven't seen any of the issues, the display driver issues, any of the rotation issues, the battery life issues. All of the issues that seem to plague the early samples really have, I think, been taken care of. The small things that I have had problems with, like the store or Google not really liking Microsoft, these are all little things that, yes, they are annoying, but I think in the next update they're probably going to get taken care of. So if you are waiting to buy this, I think that you'll be happy with the Windows 10 experience so far. I really think that Microsoft has nailed it. And Cortana's on board, so you can just talk to your computer if you don't have any friends like me and make Star Trek references in your reviews. So I was just sitting here racking my brain trying to figure out what I didn't like about this machine. And there isn't a lot. I wish it had longer battery life. I think the keyboard is great. I think the precision trackpad hasn't given me any problems. I like the 12.5 or 13.5 height. I love the fulcrum hinge. I like that it makes me think about Star Trek and the future and me owning a device that's from the future. I like that it has a unique look, that it doesn't look like anything else that's currently on the market. But if aesthetics aren't important to you, the functionality of the machine is absolutely killer, and the fact that it comes with a pen if you need it is great for content producers. The only downside is it's too expensive. It is just too expensive. It's really expensive. I'm willing to pay for it because I want something that's smaller. But if you're not in need of really powerful graphics, the Surface Pro 4 might be more appropriate. And there's a ton of laptops out there that are in the $1,000 range, half the price of this thing, or $500 cheaper than this thing. But the pen is going to be a major thing for a lot of people. So no real downside except for the price. So if you have a lot of money, this may be the device for you. If you are on a budget, you could probably find something bigger to carry around. So leave me questions in the comments. I'm still going to be using this. I'm going to be using this as my daily driver from now on because I've always wanted something with a discrete graphics card that's in the 13-inch range. But a lot of people don't really care about that. So I think that about wraps it up. I'm your host, Nicole Scott from Mobile Geeks. If you haven't already, please like this video. Every like helps, and if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so because that's what pays my rent. My landlord comes to my door and asks for subscription buttons. That's what happens.